The Brookville Inn had always stood as an enigmatic presence on the outskirts of town. Its imposing Victorian architecture, with turrets that seemed to scrape the heavens, had made it a landmark for generations. Yet, despite its grandeur, the inn had remained mostly vacant for decades. Only a handful of brave or foolhardy travelers dared to stay the night, and most of them never returned. Sarah Mitchell was a freelance journalist known for her daring investigations. Sarah had heard the rumors about the Brookville Inn for years. Tales of strange occurrences, mysterious disappearances, and ghostly apparitions had piqued her curiosity. She had a reputation for seeking out the truth, no matter how unsettling, and her latest assignment was to uncover the secrets of the infamous inn. As Sarah approached the inn on a gloomy, rain-soaked evening, she couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. The inn's dark, looming presence seemed to suck the warmth from the very air. She parked her car and stepped out, clutching her notebook and camera. Inside the inn, the atmosphere was stifling, the air heavy with the weight of untold stories. The lobby was adorned with faded portraits of long-dead innkeepers and dusty chandeliers that cast eerie, flickering shadows. The reception desk stood unmanned, but a large antique ledger lay open, beckoning her. Sarah, muttering to herself, "Well, I guess I'll sign in." With trembling hands, Sarah picked up the quill and signed her name in the ledger. The ink, like molten silver, oozed onto the page, and her signature seemed to shimmer for a moment before fading into the parchment. Just as she placed the quill down, she heard the creaking of floorboards behind her. Sarah turned to find a man standing there, his attire strangely outdated, like something out of a 19th century novel. "Welcome to the Brookville Inn, Ms. Mitchell. We've been expecting you." "Expecting me? How did you—" "Man, we are always prepared for our guests. Please, your room is ready. Up the grand staircase and to your left." Without waiting for a response, the man disappeared into the shadows, leaving Sarah feeling unsettled. She hesitated for a moment, but decided to follow his instructions. Her room, named the Regal Suite, was indeed grand. It had a large four-poster bed, heavy drapes, and antique furnishings that seemed to belong to another era. Sarah put her bag down, determined to get some rest before she began her investigation. But as she lay in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about the room. The air felt heavy, and she could hear faint whispers that seemed to emanate from the walls. "Stay, stay, forever." Startled, Sarah jumped out of bed and switched on the lights. The room was empty, but the whispers continued, growing louder and more insistent. "Stay. You belong here. Forever." Determined not to be spooked, Sarah decided to investigate. She pulled out her voice recorder and began asking questions. "Who are you? What do you want?" The whispers coalesced into a chilling reply. "We are the forgotten, the lost souls of this place, seeking release." Sarah's heart raced as she continued recording. The room seemed to respond to her questions, shadows dancing along the walls and the temperature dropping. "Why are you here? What happened to you?" The whispers grew frantic and menacing. "We were betrayed, trapped. Now you must join us." Terrified, Sarah backed away from the recorder, but the door slammed shut with a deafening crash. The temperature plummeted, and the walls seemed to close in. "You're ours now. Forever." As Sarah struggled to open the door, a brilliant light pierced the darkness. The man from the reception, now holding an ancient amulet, burst into the room, chanting incantations. The malevolent spirits howled in agony as they were banished from the room. Breathing heavily. "You should have listened to the warnings, Ms. Mitchell. The Brookville Inn is not a place to be trifled with." Sarah was shaken but grateful to be free. The man introduced himself as Henry, the innkeeper, and explained that the spirits that haunted the inn were the restless souls of those who had been wronged and betrayed within its walls. They seek to ensnare anyone who ventures too close, like moths to a flame. "You were lucky I arrived in time." Sarah realized that the whispers weren't malevolent but desperate cries for help. The spirits wanted their stories to be heard and their pain acknowledged. "I need to document this. People need to know the truth about this place." Henry cautioned her, explaining that the spirit stories were tied to the inn itself, and revealing them could have dire consequences. Nevertheless, Sarah was determined to uncover the truth. As she left the Brookville Inn, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had barely scratched the surface of its mysteries. She had encountered the unexpected twist. The malevolent spirits were not seeking to harm her, but to communicate their anguish, and she had unwittingly become a conduit for their voices. Sarah delved deep into her investigation, gathering accounts of those who had encountered the spirits and the tragic stories of betrayal and loss that had led to their torment. She wrote a compelling article, which was met with both fascination and skepticism. 1 year later, the Brookville Inn was in the midst of a revival. Tourists flocked to the historic establishment, eager to experience its haunted reputation. Sarah's article had breathed new life into the inn, and Henry had reluctantly accepted the influx of guests. But as more people ventured into the inn, the spirits grew restless once again. They had tasted freedom through Sarah's documentation, but their thirst for release was insatiable. One night, as a group of thrill-seekers gathered in the infamous Regal Suite, the whispers returned, more desperate and menacing than ever. "You've uncovered our secrets. Now you must pay." Terrified screams echoed through the inn, and the guests were never seen again. Sarah received word of the horrifying incident and rushed back to the Brookville Inn. She found Henry, the innkeeper, standing in the lobby, his face etched with sorrow. Frantic. "What happened? Where are they?" "The spirits. They were angered by the intrusion. They've taken them forever." The unexpected twist was that the spirits of the Brookingville Inn were not simply seeking to share their stories. They were vengeful entities, forever bound to the inn, forever seeking retribution for the injustices done to them. Sarah had unwittingly unleashed their wrath, and now the inn would forever remain a haunted, malevolent place, ensnaring anyone who dared to enter its doors. Sarah's quest for the truth had come at a terrible cost, and as she left the Brookville Inn once more, she couldn't help but wonder if some secrets were better left buried in the darkness. Years passed, and the reputation of the Brookingville Inn grew darker. It became infamous as a place where brave souls ventured but never returned. The once thriving tourism had dwindled to a trickle, and the town itself suffered from the inn's ominous presence. Sarah had moved on to other stories, haunted by the memories of the malevolent spirits and the lives lost because of her investigation. She couldn't shake the guilt that gnawed at her, the knowledge that her pursuit of truth had inadvertently condemned others. One stormy night, as Sarah sat in her dimly lit office, she received an anonymous email. It contained a video attachment, and the subject line simply read, "The truth about Brookingville Inn." Curiosity piqued, Sarah opened the video file. It was a recording of a group of people gathered in a dimly lit room. They were dressed in attire from different periods, their faces marked with fear and resignation. "We are the spirits of Brookville Inn, bound by its curse for eternity." The camera panned to reveal the Regal Suite, the very room where Sarah had encountered the malevolent spirits. The air in the room seemed to ripple with an otherworldly presence. "We are not vengeful entities, as you were led to believe. We are trapped souls, victims of the inn's dark history." Sarah's heart raced as the truth began to unfold. The spirits recounted their stories of betrayal, deceit, and tragic endings that had led to their torment. They explained that they had sought her help, not to harm her, but to reveal the injustice that had bound them to the inn. "We tried to communicate with you, but our desperation and anger distorted our voices into something menacing." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she realized the magnitude of her mistake. The spirits had been pleading for help, not seeking revenge. They had wanted their stories told so that they could find peace at last. The video ended, leaving Sarah with a heavy heart and a burning desire to make amends. She knew that she had to return to the Brookingville Inn to uncover the true history of the place and give voice to the spirits' stories. As she made her way back to the inn, she could feel the weight of her previous actions pressing upon her. The grand Victorian building loomed before her, its dark history ready to be unraveled. Sarah delved into archives, old newspapers, and historical records, determined to uncover the truth. She unearthed stories of a corrupt innkeeper who had betrayed and murdered guests for their wealth, concealing their bodies within the inn's walls.